some of the other programs and their ups and downs and where they're headed next. So let's do it right now.
You are Locked On Wildcats, your daily podcast on the Arizona Wildcats, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. All right, we are going to talk a little bit about Arizona baseball and Arizona softball. And if you follow Arizona athletics, the one thing is that Arizona softball is essentially the pride and joy of the city. Now, Arizona basketball runs things, but let's be honest here. Arizona softball is the one that is basically looked at historically as the best all time at what they do. Now, they've fallen on some hard times. I think that's fair to say. I don't think I'm really breaking any news right there. And by hard times, I mean they've missed the postseason for the first time in 40 years. Not good. Now. What exactly does that mean, right? What exactly does that mean? Arizona's got to get good pitching. And it is important to say something to the effect of that, yes, while Arizona has had, yes, you had Mike Candrea, you won 8 national titles, but you also got to remember, too, that last one was in the mid-2000s. And that is I think that's a point where you look at it and you're like, yes. So Arizona was still good, but Arizona in the 12, 13 years after that had certainly fallen off a notch. They were no longer amongst the nation's elite. And I don't know that anybody would really argue that, to be honest with you. And you could say, well, there were a variety of reasons why Arizona fell amongst the nation's elite. But the big part of that is pitching. I mean, think about it growing up. Arizona always had that one ace, whether that was Nancy Evans, whether that was Jenny Finch, whether that was Taryn Mowat, you name it. Generally, the best pitchers in the country were at the University of Arizona or at UCLA. Arizona just hasn't had that of late. Now, one thing that you can say is that they were snake bitten a little bit for sure, because Kenzie Fowler from CDO was supposed to be the best pitcher in the country, and I believe that Mike Candrea was counting on her to be one of the best pitchers in the country. She just never was able to really get right. And she was just never really healthy. And that hurt that team. That hurt the program in a big way. Because, again, you can have all the bats in the world, but if you don't have the pitching, then it's going to be a problem. And we've seen that, and we've seen that time and time again. Arizona softball has one of the best hitting lineups in the entire country. And not only do they have one of the best hitting lineups in the entire country, it's a lineup that you go up and down across the board. These are players that would start for any team in the country. I mean, that's just, the numbers bear that out. The resumes bear that out. The high school accolades bear that out. It's that way across the board. But the pitching has been an issue. And I think it's impossible to look the other way. Now, again, Devin Metzbit's solid, but you don't watch her and say that is a dominant shutdown pitcher like some of the players that Arizona's had in the past. I mean, it's just really that simple. Now, Sydney Summerdike comes in, and she's the California State Player of the Year, and she was okay, but she also wasn't a closer. She wasn't a one that you give the ball to and say, all right, win us this series, win us this game. Maybe that does occur, but right now it's hard to look at that and saying that it is going to occur. So what's that next step? Now, you got to remember, Caitlin Lowe is in year 2. I'm definitely not going to sit here and blame Caitlin Lowe for all of the program's failings because, again, Caitlin Lowe inherited a program that I think it's fair to say was on the downturn to a certain extent. She was obviously a fantastic player here, one of the all-time greats, but so far it's been a little bit of a rough slog for him. You got to get pitching. Now, again, you had an early entry into the program this year who is supposed to be really, really good. We'll find out and we'll see exactly how she is. And you got some other players coming in. Keep in mind, they were also a little snake bitten because you had two of your best players transfer to UCLA. Taking advantage of the transfer portal there, which is their right. But in the past, that doesn't happen. That you don't lose those players to anywhere because you're at the University of Arizona. Now, I think it is fair to say that, I think some of it is the college or softball has caught up with Arizona. Back in the day, you had about 2 or 3 different schools that you could go to, and now you got everything. You've got the SEC is rolling in cash, as we all know. And not only are they rolling in cash, I mean, it's become a sexy place to go play college softball. And, let's be honest, makes a lot of sense. Why wouldn't you want to go play college softball in the South where you got a ton of gravitas there because of, you're in the SEC, you're going to get paid well, and you're going to be in great facilities. Keep in mind, the one thing that made Arizona so good was that besides being the best program, you also had great facilities in place that you generally didn't have for other softball programs. This really was the house that Mike Candrea built. And and not only was it the house that Mike Candrea built, but it was also this the school that, I mean, let's call it the way it is. This was the marquee program in the entire country, and it's not the marquee program anymore. So how are you going to get back there? Well, first you got to figure out what you're going to do with the pitching staff situation, because again, Taryn Mowat is an all-time great. We know that. But I think it also is fair to say that maybe she's just not the greatest pitching coach in the world. I don't know, because she's been here a while now and they haven't been very good. I'm not going to be the person that's going to come in the year 2 of somebody's, somebody's reign and say that you've got to be able to do this or you've got to be able to do that. I'm not going to do that because, again, that's really not, I don't think that's fair to somebody in their first or second year. As a matter of fact, I don't think it's fair to somebody in their first or second year. But I will say that I think there's got to be improvements made. If there's not improvements made, then at that point you got to step in, because at the end of the day, yes, there is the head coach, but as the athletic director, it is your job though to also watch over the programs that you have, and that's something that I think Arizona would have to keep an eye on, to put it mildly. But that's kind of where you're at though with Arizona softball, and it's just weird seeing Arizona softball in that position because we're not used to seeing it. With Arizona softball, you're used to domination, and that's slowly gone away. It'll be interesting to see what exactly they can do there. But one thing you don't have to worry about is Birddogs. Birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege. Check it out. Birddogs. Okay. You can use code LockedOnCollege for a free tumbler with every purchase. How cool is that? But again, check out Birddogs. I'm not even really a shorts person, but I like how I look in shorts and with Birddogs, and that's why I utilize them. Again, there's a reason that everybody's wearing them. It's because it looks cool, and who doesn't want to look cool? So again, check it out. Birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege. All right. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back. We're going to talk a little bit Arizona baseball. Thanks for making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. I'm your host, Mike Luke. All right, now a little bit Arizona baseball, a little bit of Chip Hale talk right here. So Arizona baseball has been interesting because you got to look at it historically. Jerry Kindle was one of the best college baseball coaches to ever walk through here. 3 national titles, put a ton of dudes into the major leagues. Jerry Kindle was, let's be honest here, Jerry Kindle was where it's at. And then after that, you kind of went with the hand-picked successor, Jerry Stitt. That didn't work out. Then you got Andy Lopez. Now, Andy Lopez had a great resume, had won a national title before, coming over from Florida, and Andy Lopez won a national title at the University of Arizona. So you got him their 4th national title. Now, Then Andy Lopez retires after a couple years later, and they bring in Jay Johnson. Now, Jay Johnson was a great hire by any stretch of the imagination because Jay Johnson could recruit and kids wanted to play for Jay Johnson. That is a big thing. If people want to play for you, that is a good thing right there. And people wanted to play for Jay Johnson. It was that simple. And he got a team to a World Series runner-up in his first year at the University of Arizona. And he continued to recruit really well. The problem, though, is that now in the day and age, the SEC came calling and LSU picked him up. And LSU is kind of what Arizona softball used to be, in that well, maybe not quite that good, but LSU is at the top of the college pecking order right there. And there's a reason that Jay Johnson and any other coach would have taken that gig right there. So you bring in Chip Hale. I'm fine with the Chip Hale hire. I still am, but there's obviously some things that need to be worked out. First, as we talked about before, I think in Arizona, you got to find people that want to be at the University of Arizona, because if you don't want to be at the University of Arizona, this can be a little bit more difficult than I think that people would want it to be. And a big reason why is because, if you look at Arizona as a stepping stone job, you're probably not going to succeed here. It's kind of that easy. It's kind of that simple. Chip Hale wants to be here. Not only did Chip Hale want to be here, Chip Hale is the player who is the coach who is going to do everything he can, because he's arguably the best player in school history. He's got a big league manager background, experience, all of that. And so there is that. And he came in, and I thought they were decent in their first year. Now, granted, they lost a lot of their players to who followed Jay Johnson to LSU, and that wasn't good. But they were formidable. They made the postseason. And I think there were hopes going into this year. This team definitely took a big step back this past year. And similar to softball, it's about the pitching, man. If you don't got the pitching, then you're probably going to struggle to a certain degree. And Arizona struggled in a big way. Because, again, you look at it, the hitting was great. The hitting was fine. There was absolutely no problem whatsoever with the hitting. And I believe that when you look at the some of the younger players right there, the one thing that you do like is what you do like is when you look at players, you like the pitch, or you like the hitting. The young hitting especially is impressive. But again, the pitching was awful, and there's no other way to spin it. And when you're in the Pac-12, you got to have better than awful pitching. I mean, you just do. And Arizona had awful pitching this year, and it showed and it reflected. This was a lineup that could have gone some places for sure, because again, you had power, you had at the front of the order, the rotation worked, you had a lot of different things that were going for you. But the problem, though, with this squad was that they just never really quite figured it out, to be honest with you. And the pitching, if anything, got worse. Now, it was intriguing, at least, that the hitting wasn't bad. Now, the hitting wasn't bad, and I think that's a good thing right there. But, again, it's easier to find hitting than pitching. Now, a lot of people are poo-pooing Jay Johnson's ability to recruit. Chip Hale's ability to recruit. I do not do that, because I look at the lineup right there, and I think to myself that there's a lot to work with right there. He's gotten some young players, and let's be honest here. If you're a young player and you want to play in the major leagues, it's probably a pretty good thing to play for somebody who is a manager in the major leagues and somebody who gets it from an Arizona perspective. Now, I think the one thing that you got to look at, though, and you got to think to yourself is, what is that next step then for Chip Hale? Can he get that elite pitching? Well, we're going to find that one out. I would personally get rid of Dave Lawn, the pitching coach. Dave Lawn's been around forever, and he's not very good. Now, Chip Hale kept him. I think a lot of that is because, he wanted to be the good dude. He wanted to be the good, the good soldier. But Dave Lawn probably has Dave Lawn has seen better times. That's the best way that I can put it. And I would go in another direction because, quite frankly, it has not been up to par. It has not been up to what Arizona fans should have. You had when you had Heskey in earlier, he was a guy that the pitching improved under. So you got to find a new voice there. I would unlike with Caitlin Lowe and Taryn Mowat, I would probably step in and say that we need to find a new pitching coach here because I don't believe Dave Lawn is good enough. Now, again, Chip Hale is a legend here, and he deserves to be treated as such. But you also got to win baseball games, and I think you can check off the position players in the hitting. I have no doubt that that's going to be good enough because I don't think that he's going to ever have a hard time finding a lineup right there. But I do think that he's going to have a hard time finding the pitching right there. And so let's talk a little bit about what these two have done that maybe or haven't done that maybe Tommy Lloyd and Jedd Fisch were able to do. We'll talk about that next. Thanks for making Locked On Wildcats your first listen of the day. All right, now, what Jedd Fisch and what Tommy Lloyd were both able to do immediately is bring in enthusiasm. They were able to bring in people, the average fan that was very interested to see what Arizona was going to be able to do. I don't know that there's really been any of that with softball because I think for the longest time people just kind of felt that softball ran itself. And all right, softball will run itself. And with baseball, it's, every few years we'll be really, really good. We like going out to High Corbett, but I don't know that there's been a demand for either one to be great. There's a demand for Arizona basketball to be great. And even if there's not a demand for Arizona football to be great, people are going to show that by not showing up. So you had to get two energetic people in there. I think if you're Lowe and if you're Chip Hale, you got to find something to distinguish yourself. You got to find something to separate yourself from the rest of the crowd right now, because right now you're just kind of fitting into the rest of the crowd. I don't know what that is, to be honest with you, but they got to find something unique, something that's a calling card unique to themselves. But again, this is also their role because they are college coaches. I mean, they should be able to do this. And if they can't do it, then you probably got to find somebody else there. I think year 3 for both of these people is going to be huge. And not only is it going to be huge, I think we're going to find out exactly what both of them are made out of. Because again, when you think of both these programs, these are proud programs. These are programs that should be good. These are programs that should be able to compete at the highest level. And so far, they haven't really done that. But again, it's also a unique transition period because you got, like I said, the way Jay Johnson left and then he took half the roster with him to LSU. I'm not going to fully blame Chip Hale for that. And then with Caitlin Lowe, you're following a legend right there. That's never going to be easy. And not only is it never going to be easy, it's never going to be easy. It's going to be very, very simple. Now, with I do think that University of Arizona right now is going to figure out what exactly we're at. But again, this is going to be up to Dave Hickey. Dave Hickey's done a really, really good job right here. And not only has he done a really good job, I think that he has done a job where he should get the benefit of the doubt. And not only should he get the benefit of the doubt, I believe that he should be able to I believe he should get the benefit of the doubt. I believe that he should be able to, let's be honest here. He's done a good job. These hires, though, we got to be able to hit on again. So we'll find out exactly where all of that lasts right there. But I am excited to see what he does because I think that, like I said, I believe that there is a next step for him. I believe that Hickey is a baseball guy. We got to remember that Dave Hickey is a baseball guy, and so that's kind of where it's at right there. So again, a little bit of a shorter show today, but we will be back with you tomorrow about 23, 24 minutes. But as always, you have a great rest of your week. You've been listening to the Locked On Wildcats podcast. It's never a bad time to be an University of Arizona Wildcats fan Baseball and softball are going to get there. Just got to have some faith in there. We'll be back with you tomorrow. We'll be back with you on